I do feel deeply sorry when I see the present-day Armenian government, founded on Soviet-style corruption, anxious to sell the Armenian genocide away for quick money and open borders with Turkey. Even more so, I was appalled to see Mrs. Clinton, Obama's compliant Secretary of State, pushing the Armenians and Turks to sign the infamous protocols which no longer demanded Turkish admission of the genocide. All that, of course, is now in peril, but because of Nagorno-Karabakh, not because of 1915. Yet what did I find on my way here to Toronto yesterday? Passing through Paris from Beirut, I picked up a copy of a booklet, here it is, called Armenia, published by the European Times, a trade organization with nothing to do with the London or New York Times. But it's been published with the full cooperation of the present government in Yerevan. There are articles on trade, tourism, telecommunications, and what the magazine calls positive change, quote unquote. There are photographs of ancient Armenian gravestones and of Mount Ararat. Yet nowhere is it explained that Ararat lies in Turkey, nor why it lies in Turkey, nor is there a single mention, not even a paragraph, about the Armenian genocide. The genocide has been deleted from Armenian history with the assistance of the government of the state of Armenia. You have a hard time, don't you? I want to make two suggestions. I'm not an activist, I'm a journalist. But I was amazed on visiting the Armenian Genocide Museum in Yerevan a couple of years ago to find that some of the museum staff believe that hitherto unseen photographs of the genocide still exist. They actually produced two for me, and we used them immediately in my paper, The Independent. Very fuzzy pictures of a gathering of Armenians with their farm animals near Erzurum. Some of these pictures, they suspect, were taken by German diplomats and soldiers in 1915, photographs which were later taken back to Germany in 1918, lay in photo albums in German homes until 1945, when Soviet troops vanquished Nazi Germany and sent back to Russia millions of looted treasures and valuables. I met one Armenian historian who is convinced that these included picture albums of the Armenian genocide, which may still exist in Russian homes in Moscow and other cities in the Ukraine too, in Belarus today. You need these pictures. The Armenian genocide did not take place in prehistory. It was the first industrial genocide, and it took place in the industrial age. There were cameras. Look, for example, at the work of Armin Wegner. And there were also early, state-of-the-art as they were then, technology movie cameras, photographs. You need to find more pictures and more photographs. An Armenian friend of mine in Beirut, Misak Kelechian, has unearthed German film of dying genocide victims in the Syrian desert. They move just, they're dying. And of child refugees in Beirut and in Athens, some of their numbers so vast and their hunger so great that they can be seen eating at tables which are more than a mile in length. This is movie film. In Beirut 2 months ago, Kelechian took me to the Lazarus Catholic College at Antura above Beirut. Behind a church was a small grave, a rectangle of cheap concrete marking it out, blessed by a flourish of wild yellow lilies. Inside were the powdered bones and skulls and bits of femur of up to 300 children, Armenian orphans of the great 1915 genocide, who died of cholera and starvation as the Turkish authorities tried to Turkify them in a converted Catholic college. But for once, it's the almost unknown story of the surviving 1,200 children between 3 and 15 years old who lived in the crowded dormitory of this ironically beautiful cut-stone school that proves that the Turks did indeed commit genocide, legally commit genocide in the legal sense of the word genocide. Barack Obama and Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, who so pitifully tried and are trying to prevent the US Congress acknowledging the massacre of 1.5 million Armenians, should go there to this Lebanese hilltop village and hang their heads in shame, for this is a tragic, appalling tale of brutality against small and defenseless children whose families had already been murdered by Turkish forces during the First World War. Some of them were to recall, long before they died, how they were forced to grind up and eat the skeletons of their dead fellow child orphans in order to survive starvation. Jamal Pasha, one of the architects of the 1915 genocide, And alas, Turkey's first feminist, Halide Adivar, helped to run this orphanage of terror in which the Armenian children were systematically deprived of their Armenian identity and given new Turkish names, forced to become Muslims and beaten savagely if they were heard to speak Armenian. The Antura Lazarus College priests have recorded how its original Lazarus teachers were expelled by the Turks and how Cemal Pasha presented himself at the front door with his German bodyguard after a muezzin began calling for Muslim prayers once the statue of the Virgin Mary had been taken from the belfry. Hitherto, the argument that Armenians suffered a genocide has rested on the deliberate nature of the slaughter. But Article 2 of the 1951 UN Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide specifically states that the definition of genocide, to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group, includes forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. This is exactly what the Turks did in Lebanon. Photographs still exist, I've got them here, of hundreds of near-naked Armenian children performing physical exercises in the college grounds. One even shows Cemal Pasha standing on the steps in 1916, next to the young and beautiful feminist Adivar, who, after some reluctance, agreed to run this dreadful orphanage. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the kind of research, Kelechian's research, that more Armenians should be doing. I know you have the Armenian Genocide Museum in Washington. I know how much work has been done by Armenian historians, by men like Dadrian and, in more popular form, Peter Balakian. But I do think that you need a foundation specializing in the discovery of new evidence of the genocide. It would need massive funding. It would need millions of dollars. But remember, pictures and photographs and original documentary film in which the Armenians were suffering actually move, have an unstoppable power to convince. They will move more non-Armenian people than all the protest marches and memorial services and speeches like this that you stage.